Tell me about your thoughts on the real estate market in 2024.
First year we got 60 homes. Second year we got 180. We want to grow up to 1,000 homes.
He sent me to Orlando for a week with none of my own money and no connection. I had to get a real estate deal.
So many good ideas go to die because people can't sell.
1,500 people said, raise your hand if you have more money than you have time. Like half the room put their hand up. He's like, if you don't have any money, this is who you need to partner with.
What pitfalls do you commonly see with new investors that you would recommend they avoid? Welcome back to the Wealthy Business Podcast. I'm your host, Javi Chavez. Today, I have some real estate experts. I have Tim and Shane from Seo Capital. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good.
Awesome. So, man, let's jump right into it. If you guys lost all your money, didn't have any resources, no network, what would you do to start making revenue today?
It's a good question. So we just did a YouTube video, spun a wheel with a bunch of random cities on it. I got Orlando. So he sent me to Orlando for a week with none of my own money and no connections. I had to get a real estate deal. So first thing I did when I found out it was Orlando, I'm joining Facebook groups. I'm posting like, hey, are there any meetups, any investors I can connect with? People were like, yeah, let's connect. So the next morning we went to breakfast and I started just talking about some of the creative stuff we do. And this was a guy that's just a cash offer wholesaler, cash offer. And I think it kind of blew his mind a little bit that you can do subject to, you can buy seller financing. He's like, dude, I got all these leads that aren't taking my offer. Let's call them. So 4 hours we sat there and called his leads, found a deal, and then we just partnered on it. We JV'd on it.
Boom.
Made $15,000.
There we go.
In 5 days.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
And so like, how did you develop the negotiation skills and the ability to talk to these people? Because I feel like one of the challenges that somebody listening to this podcast might have is like, okay, well, you have sales skills, you know how to talk to people. So like, how does somebody develop those skills?
It takes a lot of reps and just doing it. And I was telling Shane this story because he was asking me about my entrepreneurial journey, how I kind of became an entrepreneur. And I used to make those paracord bracelets.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
And like I got really good at it. I bought the nice buckles and everything. I didn't sell any because I didn't ask anyone to buy them. Because I didn't know. I thought sales just happen.
Yep.
And like I had no sales skills. Didn't ask anyone to buy them. You got to learn it. Yeah.
And so many good ideas go to die just because people can't sell. There's a lot of genius people, a lot of amazing products that get created and amazing services. But if you can't sell, then no value gets transferred, no value gets created. So tell me more about the story. So you go for 5 days. You lock up a deal. Did you keep on doing deals out there, or were you like, all right, challenge completed, I'm moving on?
There were a few. So we actually, one of the other guys in our team was down in Orlando this week and kind of followed up on some of them. Some of them we may possibly still get on seller financing, but this one, I think the fact that we got it is because I went in person.
Yeah.
He's just kind of virtually wholesaling.
Nice.
Just ripping the phones. I was like, hey, we think we could probably give you a little bit more. I know you said no to the cash offer. Can we meet you at the house? So I went to the house, walked through it, looked at it, took pictures, kind of pitched him on the creative stuff. And he wasn't sure. And I just go, what do you need for this house? And he's like, I can't do any less than 190. That's what our cash offer was. So I pulled a contract out of the car, we signed it, wholesaled it the next day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so for your roadmap for both you guys in 2024, like what are you really focused on in terms of building your wealth?
So we're really wanting to go into grow multifamily and single family heavily and mainly creative. So we're targeting, again, mainly tired landlords that have portfolios. So we just got a 59 unit owner financing. So we came out with $32,000 to get it.
Wow.
Yeah, and we'll be cashing 20 or 30 grand a month from that. So we kind of created a business plan how we pitch that to developers, syndicators too, because they don't like the property management side.
Yep.
So we can be an alternative to that property management company, and then we'll be the buyer. So that's kind of the way we're pitching it. And then as far as single family, we have a method when, for example, Colin, which is another guy that we have on the team, he bought 4 houses, all with just $30,000 down each home, $1,200 a month, principal only payments. Each house was $400,000 or so. And then what we're doing is we're finding tenant buyers that come and give us $50,000 down and pay us $50,000 more than what we bought it. What are they renting for right now?
$2,600 a month.
$2,600 a month. We got them for $13-ish a month or so.
Principal only.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So my first year starting, I did the fix and flip thing. I know you guys do that. I'm not good at it, man. The first January through August is an 8-month period for me to buy the home, fix it, and I had to deal with all the contract. It was horrible for me, honestly. It's just such a headache, and I realized that once I'm done, I have to repeat it over and over again. And then I found a video of this old man explaining creative financing on YouTube. I can't even find the video anymore. But during that time, once I sold the house in August, which was 8 months later, from August to December, I bought my first 60 homes. And I'm an introverted person, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not an extrovert guy, so I was terrified. But once I got one, it just made it so much easier to snowball. So we're just going to kind of double down on that now that we have a team.
Nice.
First year we got 60 homes. Second year we got 180. So now we're just we want to grow up to maybe 1,000 homes or so, and then build up our multifamily to 1,000 units or so.
And which markets are you guys focused in?
Southeastern states. So Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina, Florida, Alabama, maybe even Phoenix or Texas. We've been thinking about those
Nice.
too.
Yeah, Phoenix is great too. So is Texas. We have students all over.
Where's y'all's favorite locations?
I mean, we've just been based in Vegas, and I think it was just because Ryan, born and raised here, so it just made sense to naturally start building the business here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Some of our best students, we actually have someone in Atlanta, Clint Cooper. He crushes it. So he's like one of our longtime students. It's like 2020. I know he loves that market. I mean, surprisingly, California still does pretty well for a lot of our students too. For us personally, we just recently, I was telling you guys before the podcast, starting this nationwide model.
Yeah.
And what we've learned is, number one, we can get cheap leads pretty much anywhere. Up until this point, we were only doing really TV and PPC here locally in Vegas. It's like a $50,000 budget a month that we were spending on, those same corny TV commercials you probably see. I want to buy your house, So we've been running that for years. And then we realized we can, like, for the cost of a lead over here, it's like $300 a lead for TV. We can get the same lead for like $20 online. Oh, wow. So going nationwide.
So you're doing more virtual wholesaling?
Yep. So now we're virtual wholesaling. Every now and then we'll take one down as a flip if we decide to. But for the most part, because we have this large network of students, number one, we have the resources. Ryan's a part investor in InvestorLift. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's like it's a software that helps you find buyers nationwide. So other resources now where the nationwide thing just made sense for us to wholesale. If years ago it wouldn't have made sense for us to do. So we started off in like any market. We'll just whatever the cheapest lead is, and then we were like, okay, we're getting things in tiny little neighborhoods in Alabama. We're like, okay, we can't move this. So now we've scaled back to like you call them like tier 2 markets. Things are still expanding, places where we can find buyers, and it's been great. I think we're up to, I want to say we did about like 40 deals last month alone.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And obviously, like, transparently, our fallout rate's a little bit higher with those. We'll probably end up closing on maybe like 70% of those or so, which is still solid, right?
That's still good. Man,
and this is that was month 2 of us figuring everything out. So it's only going to get better as we get more buyers and relationships. So yeah, it's been cool to see like the growth of all that. Are there any? Actually, I was going to ask, how are you guys finding these deals? Because I know you mentioned the tired landlords. What specific websites are you guys using, or lists are you guys pulling to get that information?
We're very basic, like probably too basic. We get a lot of leads from Facebook Marketplace.
I love it.
And Zillow.
Yeah. Well, it also just proves that you don't need fancy software. You don't need to do anything, and there's truly no excuse for just sweat equity and putting in the work. And
I think going in person and talking to the landlord is very important. Absolutely. It's just 100%. Old school though, but that's just how we've been doing it.
I think it's great. And that's what we've been, we have a very high success rate here in Vegas because we have people who, again, go on the appointments and they show up. And so that is the one drawback. And there's a challenge with us going virtual because, you don't get that same experience. So our phone people just have to be that much better. And so tell me about your team right now, like for the acquisition side, how many people are hitting the phones and texting?
4.
Yeah, we just started in October.
Yeah,
so we're still new.
Before October, it was just Shane.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've done it all myself. So I'm still learning how to even manage a team and us all work together.
Yeah. So what challenge have you encountered managing a team, and what advice could you give?
Well, honestly, it's my time. How often am I around?
Not very often.
I've been traveling a lot.
We've known each other 2 years, and he just asked how I got into entrepreneurship this morning.
Yeah. So I guess it'd be time. Number 2 is, each person that wants to get into real estate has learned it in a different way off YouTube or from this
Yes.
person, that person, and then we're trying to all do it one specific way, our way. So I guess just trying to make sure everyone knows how we are doing it together, you know?
And so how do you do that? Are you creating documents? Are you just telling them, hey, this is the way I want it done? And then you got to check back in, a couple days later. Like, what does that training and onboarding process look like for your people?
Yeah, so right now we just kind of put each person in their own place. He does multifamily.
Yep.
So he's reaching out to a bunch of wholesalers, people that already found them, brokers, direct to seller. Colin is going into hotels, so he's reaching out. He went to school to do hotels.
Like hospitality?
Yeah. So he's analyzing in the markets that we chose. So that's a specific what he's going after. And then my brother, he used to build Chick-fil-A's, all these grocery stores and stuff. So he's going into, we're trying to get into mergers and acquisitions. So he's trying to talk to those certain companies and handle some of the fix and flips that we do. And David's new. So we're trying to get in the education space too and kind of help people and, hopefully create future partners,
Yeah. And then that's, when you said future partners, that's how a lot of our students become partners as well, because they come up through the program. Actually, that's how I learned how to invest in real estate from Ryan. And then that was what I didn't have any intention of working here or working with him, but because, I learned and I saw the things that it's done for my life, other people's lives. I was like, oh shoot, of course I'm going to come work here. Like, it's no brainer. So yeah, that's the way you create like great partners as well.
Awesome. So do you build your own personal portfolio too?
Yeah. So I'm trying to cherry pick some rentals this year. So my background before working for Ryan, I was in like software sales. So I was like building sales teams, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I can tell you're a salesman. Man. Yeah. You're good. You're good. Yeah.
You mentioned, being an introvert and extrovert. I think I would lean more towards like the introversion side. Like, I don't get charged up going out and talking to people, but just through practice and, doing the thing, I figured it out.
Yeah.
But, so
you have to put the reps in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's the reps. That's the most important thing.
You weren't born with those biceps either.
Yeah, no, this is new too, man. I've been hitting the gym a lot more recently. Ryan's in great shape, and I was like, shoot, man, the pressure's on. I got to keep up. But yeah, so that was my background, and then I found Ryan in 2020, like a lot of people do on social media. So he's talking to people like how to flip houses, whatever, invest in the coaching. I flipped in wholesale, then part time while I kept my full time job, and then 2020 is when I came and worked here.
That's awesome.
But one thing with you guys, it seems like you have a lot of different verticals going on. I know you got like the hotels, you have the multifamily, single family stuff that you're buying. How do you prioritize what your money and your time is going to be spent on?
That is a great question. That's actually that's why we chose, because honestly, just to be quite honest, is whenever we were first doing, I said, all right, Tim, Colin, go after multifamily, hotels, land, just everything. We just now started putting each person in their own sector. So that's kind of our second phase.
Yeah.
But oh man, that's a great question.
Yeah.
That's
the
tough.
issue is that the way we've been doing it is working.
Yeah.
We know it's not the most efficient, but it's working, so we can't stop. But
I think there's something to be said for that too. I think a lot of people try to iterate or like make things better and improve a process that's not necessarily broken. So like if it's working, why change it? But as you guys scale, that's the biggest challenge with us internally too, is we have so many things going on, and you guys already kind of figured it out with having a specific person for each vertical, which is step one, right? Like you gotta have one person dedicated on everything.
Yeah.
What can happen, and sometimes even previously here, I'm in charge of 5 different companies. I can't spend all the time on each individual one. You need respective people. But
that's right.
From a finance perspective, I know you guys are doing a lot of this creatively. How else are you raising capital to get on these deals?
So I do have 2 funds, 2 debt funds, but we have not actively really been growing those, to be honest with you. I think I started that in 2020, and I think we only bought maybe $7 million worth of property in that. But as far as I guess on my personal portfolio, how I say is everything starts in threes. I was telling Tim and Colin when they started, it's going to take 3 months to get good momentum. You guys are off to a great start. You've just been doing a month. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But it takes 3 months to get momentum. Us all learn how things work. And then after 3 years, the stuff you started in your first and second year, you start getting the wins on the third year. So that's kind of what's been up. So every year, the stuff I did 3 to 4 years ago have been paying off now. So I got a lot of capital just on my personal side. I spent $2.5 million in 45 days in cash that I got. And then I did another cash refinance, did another $2 million. So then we're just dumping those into properties, really.
Got it.
So it's stuff I did like 2-3 years ago are paying off now. So every time that happens, then we just dump it into something. So that's how we've been doing it.
I love it.
Kind of simple, actually.
Yeah. So what did you do before real estate?
Martial arts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we were in martial arts school. So I had up to 5 of them at one time, and I've sold 3, and I still have 2 more.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Taekwondo,
What kind of martial arts?
Taekwondo.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then what about you?
High school, pretty much.
How old are you?
So I'm 23.
Okay.
So
Sweet.
I started real estate really when I was 19.
Okay.
And I was in college for a little bit and then ended up buying some properties. But the first deal I was involved in was 48 units. Bought it with some partners.
Tell me about that deal.
Yeah, so we were looking for properties like we're going to work together. We're going to buy some real estate. Let's make it happen. Probably for 6 months. And eventually the broker brought a deal. It was like, hey, you guys need to buy this. It's 48 units. It's like, make it happen. Now they took care of all the money and everything. And I was like, I was going to be the sweat equity. So I went to the attorney's office and was handed a bucket of keys. It's like, hey, you're in charge now.
These are yours.
So this was a month after I turned 20.
Wow. So tell me about what the sweat equity aspect looked like. Like, what were you doing?
It was a lot of learning. Luckily, this was right at the end of 2020, so it was probably the greatest time you could have ever bought real estate, and that made up for a lot of the mistakes. But I was in there like ripping out carpets, painting walls. A funny story that I tell is I would go to Ace Hardware every day and buy like 8 1-gallon buckets of paint.
Wow.
Like 1 gallon at a time. They'd mix it, shake it, do all the stuff, and it's like 4 times as expensive to do it that way. And nobody said a word.
That's so funny.
So eventually, I don't remember who it was, but someone was like, you can buy a 5-gallon bucket. It's cheaper, way cheaper.
Way faster, too.
But yeah, I mean, I was doing the property management, had to deal with some evictions. There were 13 vacancies when we bought it, so I had to get those renovated and leased. And luckily, it was the easiest market of all time to get things leased and get things rented. And then eventually we ended up adding 45 more units to the portfolio. So that's 93, and I was managing all of it. Dropped out of school. I'm just going to do this full time.
So what advice would you give to somebody who's like 19, 20, who wants to find people that are willing to take just sweat equity?
The big thing is to build your network. And first thing when I got to college, I was like, who do I need to meet in this town to do real estate? Started going to networking events, started just meeting people and learning from them, taking investors out to lunch. There's a guy that I took to Buffalo Wild Wings, and like he had like $40 million in real estate. But yeah, just trying to educate myself and get prepared to be that person for someone. And this is another thing that I heard Grant Cardone say this one time at one of his conferences. He was in front of like 1,500 people, said, raise your hand if you have more money than you have time. Like half the room put their hand up. He's like, if you don't have any money, this is who you need to partner with. There's guys out there that got a couple $1 million, and they're too busy making a couple $1 million to run their real estate.
100%.
So, like, you want to make sure like they're good partners, good people, and get everything in writing. But yeah, I mean, there are totally people out there, as long as you've educated yourself to the point where you can provide that value.
For sure. And you got to like prepare, like you said, and educate yourself and show that you are competent and capable. But what I've seen too is there's a lot of people that just want to help young men and women and like mentor. Like I think there's like a lot, like once you reach a certain level, like you want to help people achieve that. So just putting yourself in the right situation. And like you said, most people in general, not even young people, they're not willing to show up to the networking events. They're not willing to like put themselves in a room that could potentially like improve their lives. And I think that's the biggest issue with just development and advancement in general. It's true. It's truly who you know and like the connections that you make. Tell me about that watch.
Oh, the RM here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got into watch collecting, which is not a good, healthy habit, I think. But so I've been trading up, and I finally got one. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. Is that the main one in the collection, or what else do you have?
Well, I got this one. I got the Jacob McCoe Bugatti Charon watch. So I got that one, but I like this one my best. Yeah. The other one's a
How
little
much
bit
is
too
that
big.
worth, if you don't mind me asking?
This one maybe like 220, 230.
There we go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. What do you got over there?
Oh, just a regular Submariner, nothing crazy.
I still haven't gotten called for one though.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
bought this on the gray market. So it was the same jeweler. So Ryan gets from the same
Happy
guy.
Jewelers?
Yeah, Happy Jewelers.
Oh, they're good
So
people, yeah.
it's a funny story about this one. Well, funny kind of. Back when I was 19, actually, my 19 and your 19 were very different.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah, I was dead broke. Well, I was actually in sales. I was selling cars, but I was making maybe like 60 grand a year, which isn't bad if you're
That's
19.
good for 19. Wow.
But I was spending more than I could make. So just doing dumb stuff. My dad buys me a Tag Heuer watch for Christmas that year, and I was so broke that I didn't have any money to pay rent. And Christmas is on the 25th, rent's on the 1st.
Yeah.
I that next Friday I go back to San Diego. I sell the watch to pay rent.
Oh, man.
Yeah, terrible. Son of the Year award goes to me for sure. But anyway, fast forward. I think it was 2 Christmases ago. I got us both matching Rolexes.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So that one. So this is a special watch to me. And yeah. So I have this one. Then I have the President as well. And
really?
that one's my favorite. Like that's the flashy, dressy watch. But yeah, it's funny once you get a taste of like buying the watches and stuff. I don't know whether it be for me, it's the watches. Some people it's cars or whatever. You're kind of like, I like that.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love buying with purpose like that.
Yeah. So that's why this one's cool. And pivoting back to real estate, like what pitfalls do you commonly see with like new investors that you would recommend they avoid?
Good question.
Not having enough knowledge sometime, or honestly just, I think, well, I'm going to go back to me. So
Yeah.
when I didn't start when I was 19, 20.
I know, right?
Man.
Must be nice.
Yeah, I was 29 and a month before turning 30 before I pulled the trigger. But I think, honestly, it's just not trying to do it because for 5 years I looked at properties. I got properties under contract and I just canceled them. For 5 years, I probably made every realtor upset. So I think just not getting started and just finding a mentor in your life to follow and maybe do a few deals or just trying to put forth the effort to do it. Yeah.
100%. What do you think?
I think there's a balance to that because there's people that will learn a little bit, like literally watch one YouTube video and get on the phones. And I think that I kind of respect that, but it's kind of made a bad name for a lot of wholesalers,
For
made
sure.
a bad name in the creative finance space because you go call every deal and they've been pitched sub 2 or they've been pitched creative
Yeah,
finance
incorrectly. Yeah.
Right. So there is some respect behind like just hustling and getting out there, but like you should really learn it and probably have a mentor before you're out there like trying to buy people's homes, especially if they live in them. Like with some rental properties, okay, but
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. That's why wholesalers get such a bad rep because exactly that they watch a couple YouTube videos, or maybe they buy a course or something, but they don't like adhere to it, and then they're calling, and then by the time you call, it's like, are you a wholesaler? I'm like, how do you even know what a wholesaler is? So I get that, and I would agree. I think there's analysis paralysis where you're just consuming way too much information, not doing anything. But you do need to consume some information, and make sure that you're doing it well.
Yeah.
So how did you get your start in real estate? Tell me about your first deal.
So, like I said, when I was 25 through 29, I would get houses under contract, trying to do the HGTV buy, fix, and flip it.
Yeah.
And then I would cancel every time. Finally, I got a house under contract for $45,000. We could probably sell it for 90 at the time. And I called the realtor to cancel. Happened to be a friend of mine, and he said, "Shane, just do it." So I did. I borrowed money from a friend, 45 grand to pay for it. I used 20 grand in credit cards and did the repairs, and that's how I got started, really. But what interests me was, like I said, I started off in the martial arts, schools, and a guy bought the pizza store next to my school, and he just looked really wealthy. And I asked him, I said, "What do you do?" And he says, "I do real estate." So that's what kind of got my interest. Yeah.
Yeah, love it. You mentioned something earlier about, I forget the exact term that you used, but it was essentially, buying real estate that generates revenue in terms of like the commercial side. So tell me, like, I know you guys are buying, or we're talking about buying like laundromats and other things. So What do those deals look like compared to like some of just the regular real estate deals that you're doing on like the fix and flip side?
So the laundromat that we bought. So I bought a laundromat, car wash, and some storage units for $400,000. You want an example?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So we bought it for $400,000. No money down. My closing cost was like $2,000 or $3,000.
Wait, really quick, how'd you find that deal?
So there was some apartments actually for sale. Okay, so I'll start all the way from the beginning then. Okay, so on LoopNet, there was a guy had
on where LoopNet?
On LoopNet,
okay.
Yeah, they had a 44 unit apartment complex for sale for $1.9 million, and then they didn't sell it for a year, and I just see it pop up from time to time. But then I saw it a year later; it went up to $2.6 million, and I was like, man, these guys, what? Why? Like they're not selling it now; they're raising the price. And then I was watching a Grant Cardone video, and he says, even if you, can't buy a multifamily, just be around it. So I called. I got to meet with the owners, and as I was walking with them on the, looking at the property, I realized they said all the motivations that all the single family homers, said, and I said, man, that's interesting. So. For 3 to 4 months, we kind of structured things. I said, will you owner finance? They said no. I said, will you do a seller carryout? They said no. I said, will you master lease? They said no. And then I thought of something. I said, if I buy this, what is your tax consequence? So they went to talk to their accountant, came back and said, man, we're going to have to pay 33% because it's capital gain plus recapture. They had owned it for the life of the property. And they sold it to me owner finance as well, interest only. So our payments was $12,000 a month, $12,500 a month, and the rents were $18,000, and then we raised rents to $28,000 in 2 months because it takes 60 days in Georgia, and now we have those at $43,000 a month, and our monthly payment has risen to about $17,000. So, but the day that we got it under contract, we were going to close. They said we have a laundromat, so I went to look at it. So that's how that kind of came to be.
Interesting.
So I started with their apartment. And then that. So then we bought that for $400,000, laundromat, storage units, and car wash. And then I master lease optioned that to another investor, which they paid $150,000 down, and I sold it for $1.3 million.
Wow.
Yeah, and then they pay $11,500 a month, and our monthly payment is around $67,000.
That's amazing.
So that's how that one worked out. Yeah. So that's what we've been doing. We've been buying a lot of commercial stuff and either master lease option them out, so then we don't have to worry about tax, insurance, repairs.
Yeah.
Like
so for people who don't know what master lease option is, like what exactly is that?
Master lease means so if he's let's just say I'm going to master lease him 10 units, for example. That means I'm leasing him all the units, and then he pays taxes, insurance, repairs, and maintenance, but he has the option to buy it for a certain price. So then he knows what numbers he needs to get it to. And he has equitable interest in the property. And then when he goes to finance it with a bank, he can it counts as a refinance instead of a purchase. So
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Super interesting.
Yeah.
And how do you keep up with all these different strategies, right? Because I'm sure it clearly isn't how you started. So when you hear like these new terms, because I just started hearing about triple net leases maybe, I know they've been around for a while, but I know they just recently got popular probably like 3-4 years ago, at least is when I heard about them. And so how do you keep all these like in your tool belt?
I don't know. I was telling him, so I calculate there's 33 different ways to buy creatively.
Wow.
So depending on the situation of the seller, the type of financing, like the apartment complex, we had 7 different liens. So you have to get the banks to waive the right to do a due on sale on commercial notes. They can call them due.
Yeah.
Specifically, if it's agency financing, there's some specific things. So there's a lot more legalities there. And then I was telling him, I think I created 2 more.
Yeah.
And I didn't think
we were
about
in the
it.
Uber to the airport, and he's like, I think I found 2 more ways to buy real estate.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty. And honestly, I think it's just from looking at so many different deals. And just, I love complex. I'm a puzzle guy, so I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So
Everyone's completely different.
Yeah, it seems like it. Because the more you guys speak, the more I'm like, oh, you did that deal? You did this deal? Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so would you guys, and candidly, would you say that you're like uniquely intelligent?
I would say Shane is.
I don't know about that. No.
I have a lot of good mentors, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. And I absorb things and learn things the hard way through what they learned the hard way.
Yeah.
And I think that helps.
For sure. Yeah, and again, and same with me. Like I view myself as intelligent, but like I don't think I have any unique skills or anything that's special. And that's the thing I truly love about real estate. You know, it doesn't care how smart you are. It doesn't care where you came from. You know, obviously more capital the better, but as you've proved, you know, you don't need a ton of capital to get into some of these deals. Only thing real estate cares about is if you're willing to pick up the phone, like you mentioned, and if you're willing to take the time to analyze and underwrite these deals in a creative way, you know, you can generate real wealth, right? It's not like, you know, having to go be a software engineer or any of these other more technical professions. And that's why I love real estate.
And sometimes it's just about knowing the right people.
100%.
I have an example. So I bought a duplex in Chattanooga, Tennessee a couple of years ago. And from a wholesaler, I just paid for it, bought it traditional, and found out the guy had 10 more units. So I'm telling Shane about it, and the guy said, you know, I'd sell it. And this was before we were working together. We were just friends. And he's like, you know, I'd sell it in a few years, but I'm not ready yet. And I told Shane about it. He's like, this is exactly what to say. You know, I didn't know what to say. He's like, this is exactly what to say. Like, you know, it's great. You know, you want $1 million for it. I could see it being worth that. But right now, with interest rates and everything, it's not my fault. It's not your fault. Interest rates are just high. What I'd like to do is take it over now. I can do my repairs, make the property look how it needs to look, get my books and my systems. And then in 5 years, when you want the money, it'll be a lot easier for me to give it to you.
Wow.
And the guy's like, yeah.
Nice.
So I bought the 10 units, no money down, principal only.
Yeah.
That's
and
amazing.
you said the duplex that you paid with.
Oh, yeah. So I threw this in there. I was like, hey, think of that duplex as the down payment.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then I immediately sold the duplex and made $90,000 on it.
Wow.
Yeah. Tim's crazy.
Yeah, both of you guys. I love it. And so we've talked about a lot of successes. Tell me about a deal that didn't go so well.
I've got one right now. I invested in a fix and flip with a friend, and it's all good. But he had a lot of flips going on, and the contractors caused a big issue. So we bought the house in July. It's supposed to be fixed up and sold by October, and it is March now.
Wow. And what? Just you weren't able to get the contractors to show up, or what was the deal?
Yeah, it was accountability is the big thing. So they had a lot of projects. They were paid a certain portion up front, and then they only did so much work. I was like, hey, we need more money. Hey, you haven't done the work. Hey, we don't have the money to pay our guys. We're going to have to lay them off if you don't pay us. It's like, now
what
we're
do you do?
Almost a year behind schedule. Like, the money's not there anymore.
Oh, man. Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, for us too, and, you know, we've talked about it on stage and just in podcasts and stuff. That's kind of what happened in the beginning of and that's part of the reason why we also shifted to this big wholesale models, because we had, you know, 50, 60 flips going on at a time. And we're decent at project management. Like, we have like a full team and all that stuff. But, you know, when interest rates kind of rose, we're like, shoot, who's caught holding the bag? It's us, right? And so for us, it was a big lesson where we're like, you know, why have that much liability out at any given time? Because we got like all these loans on all these properties.
Oh my God.
And so we're like, if we can make the same amount of money with no overhead and a smaller team too, we're like, why not? So that's part of the reason why we shifted as well. And we're still looking at commercial, but a lot of commercial stuff just doesn't pencil out the way it used to if we're buying traditionally. I know you guys are still crushing it with the creative finance. And have you seen an increase in sellers who are more willing to listen to a creative finance deal recently? Or is it pretty much like you guys are just killer salespeople and it works all the time?
No, it definitely is a specific seller.
Yeah.
Usually,
it's more so that like that you guys are good snipers in your approach, and you know what to look for and where to find these motivated sellers.
That's part of it. And one thing is that when you see a deal that's already offering seller financing, it's terrible.
Yeah,
because you know it's just like sometimes they're asking even higher interest rates than the bank would do, and it's like, why wouldn't I just go to the bank?
Yeah,
they're like, well, why would I give you a better rate than the bank is? Like, so I can give you a better price.
Yeah, there we go.
So, I mean, it's interesting, but it really is about how you explain it.
Yeah, and it's how you guide them, too. I would say don't come in straight up asking for owner financing in the beginning all the time. Maybe on single family, but sometime you want to talk to them, get the price, and then do what do I say? Like bring the reality moment. And he was kind of using some of the verbiage. So we'll say something like, like for example, there's a hotel that we're looking. This guy wants $6.2 million for a hotel. He has a first lien SBA loan and a seller carryback because he bought it creatively too. He's wanting us to lease it with an option to buy, but he wants $1 million down. And so we'll come to him and say, if we went to get regular finance and just buy you out, and he used the verbiage, it's not your fault or our fault, but the interest rates are high. So either the price needs to come down, or we could do some financing. But if you want to master lease it to us, it just I try and get them to understand. Here's the position that we're in. You're asking top dollar 6.2. It's probably worth 5. There's a first lien and second lien, so there's a risk there. You're wanting to lease it to us, not sell it to us. So that means we're not in good protection. We don't get any of the tax benefits. And number 4, you're wanting us to put $1 million down.
Yeah.
How do we do that exactly? And then, and also, I don't think that we try and pitch. I'm not pitching to you. What I'm trying to do is let's have a conversation. Here's what we're up against.
Yep.
Let's create the deal together. Like, what can we do to let them feel part of making the offer? And that's how we kind of pitch.
There's an art to the negotiation.
100%.
You want to get to the point where we're at some level of agreement, and then hey, these are the facts. Like if we went to the bank, our debt service is higher than the monthly income. The bank won't give us that loan.
Yeah.
So here's some ideas how we can do this. And you're just having a conversation. If you're pitching that up front, it doesn't always work. But what I do think there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of deals on the market. Typically, a few years ago, like if something was on LoopNet or Crexy, it's a terrible deal. Because the way it trades is the seller calls their broker and says, hey, I want to sell the property. The broker comes and sees it, texts 3 people, and it's sold.
Yeah.
If those 3 people don't buy it, email blast. If those hundreds or thousands of people don't buy it, take some pictures and put it on the internet. So it went through this filter process before it makes
sense.
online.
Yeah.
Which before, when interest rates were good and money was cheap, you're like, oh, that's just not a good deal. But now when we look at it, it's like, no one else is going to buy it. This deal can't be done traditionally at that price. If we can, kind of make the conversation good and we're all at some level of agreement and we're not just trying to do something no money down because we're broke, like this is how it needs to be done. You have to sell for whatever reason. You have your motivation. Here's some ways we can do it.
Love that. And you mentioned something just with with negotiations and making sure that you're on the same side as somebody. And like we're both trying to solve this problem together. So how would you categorize your negotiation style?
I'm pretty passive, I think.
Yeah. That's smart.
What I've been told by other people is my strength in negotiation is the awkward silence. Like I'll ask you what,
and then you'll just sit in silence.
I'll ask you what numbers we need to do, and that makes some people uncomfortable. And then I'll be quiet until you tell me what numbers we need to be at. And then it works.
Yeah, which is huge. I mean, that's exactly what we tell our sales team too. Like I tell every day, I'm like, you guys have to be okay with sitting in silence and just asking a question and waiting. And and again, I don't like saying this term because it kind of counteracts what I just said. But the person who speaks first loses, right? Ultimately, like a negotiation shouldn't be a win or a loss. Hopefully, it's a win-win. Yeah. But in that scenario, truly, whoever speaks first,
loses.
But yeah, tell me about you. What about you? How do you feel like you'd categorize, the way you negotiate?
I kind of like relationship-wise. I like to. I just say, hey, look, we're friends. I say it like this because we do creative. Someone says it's more like, I say, honestly, I like to say honest and transparency is more passive too, I guess, in a sense. Yeah. But I want to say kind of like, if you're confused, don't make a decision. Let's make sure that the deal works for us both because we're married together for this amount of time. So I guess in a transparent way, I think
like laying all the cards on the table.
Yeah, here's the reality. Here's everything. Can we do it together? That's kind of it.
And what tips would you give to somebody who wants to improve their negotiation skills?
you take that one.
Yeah. So, man, you got to learn. Number one, listen to what they're wanting, what their problem is. Why are they wanting to sell? Sometimes, so for example, even when we're calling and getting information from the seller, we want to know the basics of the property, but the main thing we want to know is why are they wanting to sell? What are they going to do with the money once they get it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess just figure out that kind of stuff. I don't know how to do that.
One thing that helps, I think, is being personable and likable with them. Like we just walked a house, me and one of our new guys, David, a couple days ago, and the guy really just wants someone to buy it outright. He's like, I'll consider some sort of creative offer just because I like you guys.
There we go.
That's what he said.
Yeah. I think especially in a competitive real estate market where, there's going to be a lot, just like we talked about earlier, a lot of wholesalers who are going to be calling this house. And the more that you can do to be memorable and likable, the better you'll be, right? There are certain industries where likability is always important, but it's not as important because there's only one or two people you can go to buy it, right? For example, that watch. I don't care if the person I'm buying from is super likable. It'd be helpful, but you have the watch, I want it.
Yeah.
Right. With the house, when there's a bunch of wholesalers calling, it's more of a commodity type thing. So the relationship and the knowledge is a lot more. I'm sorry, the connection is a lot more important. So I would definitely agree and resonate with that. And so, how do you go ahead? Were you gonna say
I was going to say when you're trying to buy a house, you can also need to be aware of how many other people are calling.
Yeah, for sure.
So how we got that house, this was something I got from Pace Morby when I had him on my podcast. Is he calls expired listings.
Oh, yeah.
That's a big thing they teach real estate agents is you get a good lead source from expired listings. They want to sell their house. It didn't sell. See if you can list it. Well, there's a lot of real estate agents calling them trying to list their house. So you say, hey, Mr. Seller, I'm not a real estate agent. I want to buy your house. Can we meet today to make it happen?
Yep.
That's how we got that one.
For sure. And there's something to be said with that for interrupting the pattern and not sounding like everybody else. This seller has heard 1,000 pitches from somebody else. Hey, I'm an agent. I know the last agent didn't work out, but I'm sure I could help you out in some way, shape, or form.
What's different?
Yeah, but it's no, I'm not the guy who you just talked to. I'm the direct person. Let me buy your house. That's a way more compelling message and offer.
And
for sure.
I heard the phone call and he's like, dude, realtors have been blowing me up. I'm freaking tired of it.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
It was literally hey, I'm not a real estate agent. I want to buy your house. Can we meet? And then we went an hour later and met the guy at the house and sent him an offer that night.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I see you're married. So what's it like balancing your relationship along with having very large professional goals?
It's interesting, and I think a lot of people can't relate to this. So my wife and I have almost been married for 2 years. We've almost been together for 10 years.
Wow.
You do the math.
Yeah, what are you, 12?
13. Yeah. So we've just been best friends pretty much our whole lives. We've been together since middle school, and we've got a really good relationship, literally best friends. So I don't know that having big goals has changed anything because I've always been that way, I think. So it's I guess, tough to answer that.
Yeah. But how do you prioritize your time? Because I know I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, and one of the big challenges they have in relationships is hey, sometimes I just can't put my phone down, or I don't know. And I struggle with this too. I'm not married, but I have a long-term girlfriend, and we live together and all this stuff. And sometimes I catch myself at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. firing text back to Ryan and all that. And so a lot of people, do you feel like you're experiencing some of those struggles sometimes, where you're man, I sometimes I just can't be present?
Yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that, and I do for sure. There's a friend of mine, Rocky Garza. He said, if you want to prioritize your time your priorities. Something like that.
Yeah, I get
so
that.
So that's one thing that I actually learned from him is date night. We do date night every Wednesday. It's on the calendar. It happens every week. It happens unless I'm out of town right now. Tomorrow's Wednesday.
Yeah.
But we'll
but that's it's a standing thing.
It's a thing we do. It's if it's important, put it on the calendar. Make it happen. Life is crazy. She's a civil engineer. So at 5:01, she doesn't have to think about the business ever again. Doesn't have to think about it till she walks in the door, and that's what she wants. But it's I've been on the phone till midnight before. I've been on the phone 1 a.m.
Zoom calls.
Literally yesterday, someone called at 6:30 in the morning.
Yep, gotta take
that
it.
happens.
Yeah,
and it is what it is, and you got to do it. But I think being intentional with we want to build our relationship. We want to still love each other in 15 years. Like, we need to have date night. We need to hang out. We need to talk. Like, put the phone away. And that's hard, of course. But the next step of like, this is a thing we do, and we continue to do it. It just,
Yeah. Love that.
You got to keep
Great
working
answer.
on it.
Yeah, she's used to you being an entrepreneur. I think.
Yeah, so like we've been doing it a long
and the good
time.
news
It's
is
not
like
new.
she's like you're doing pretty well. So it's not like, it's a lot harder when things aren't going as well too. Which, but that's awesome. And as far as your company goes, how do you develop as a leader now that you are bringing on more people? So what challenges have you encountered there?
Well, I think a good investor is always learning. And then honestly, I've been going to a lot of mentors. So I did do the one-on-one coaching with Grant.
Oh, nice. How'd that go?
It went really good. And then talking to Glenn Stearns, kind of getting some good advice from them on how they handle their big companies and how they handle their people.
What are some takeaways that you learned from either one of those that you're trying to apply?
Honestly, so let's just say if I'm looking at just properties and stuff, like don't be focused too much on the business, like the aspects to it. You want to focus on the staff. The staff is my new job, really, in a sense. And if I can make them as wealthy as possible, then the business will be more wealthy. So that's kind of what I took from Grant and them, I guess.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
Glenn is always about, it's like family, relationship, integrity. It's not always transactional. We can, be friends too, in a sense, So, and Glenn's also someone I very highly respect, and he's done an amazing job with all his staff. So,
Love it.
Yeah.
What about you?
A lot of it just comes from learning things the hard way. It's like, hey, we got a new guy in the office, and he doesn't know what to do. You got to teach him. Let's go. And I've had a lot of leadership experience. I was actually in Boy Scouts. I'm an Eagle Scout.
Nice,
so
me too.
Oh, you are too?
Yep, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think that it's funny because some people are like, oh, whatever, but like it truly like teaches you I would say it's elementary leadership, but it does teach you the basics of being a leader.
Yeah, it's required. You have to be the senior patrol leader for a certain amount of months to get the Eagle Scout.
It's so funny. Yeah. And so, when you are, I'm sure you've made mistakes with like, bringing people on and stuff like that. How do you course correct with somebody who might not have been trained properly or things like that?
I think it's kind of similar to my negotiation styles. Like I kind of like, hey, this is how you do it. Like I know you learned it this way, but like this is how we do it. It works. It's really not about how you say it to them, but like how you make them feel. I think is like that's what people remember. Is like I don't want you to feel bad that you're wrong, but you need to know that you're wrong so you can fix it.
Yeah,
100%.
And honestly, my position right now, I don't do a ton of that. In previous roles, like there was like 9 or 10 people under me, and I was training every single day, and like that was. Yeah. That was like being thrown to the wolves.
Got it. Well, last question, guys. If you had to leave the earth tomorrow, what's one thing you'd want people to know?
I said to accept Jesus as your savior. Yeah,
great one.
Me.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
I'll go with that one.
Yeah. Life is temporal.
Yeah, that's one of the best answers we've gotten. So we'll and where can people find out more about you guys?
We're trying to get Shane's Instagram back. For some reason, there's some glitch because it happened to another friend of mine, the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But my Instagram right now, while it's still up, is I'm Tim Stone.
Yeah.
And then if you look up Shane Seo, his YouTube channel is growing a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
my
what's the
Instagram,
website?
my new one is at the Shane Seo as Instagram.
Perfect.
And then on YouTube it's Shane Seo, SEO. So,
Yep.
Perfect. Sounds good, guys.
And if we can plug our free community that we launched yesterday.
Oh, wow. It's brand new.
Acquisitions Architect. It's on School, the platform that Alex Ramosi is kind of promoting right now. Really, we don't know exactly what we're going to do with it. It's a big old group chat of people that do creative real estate, help each other with deals, build a community, make some more money together.
You guys are definitely the real deal, so they should join. And I might even be in there too. So I'll see you guys there.
Man, I appreciate you having us, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. That's been great. All right, guys. Peace.